Tips from Trestle is brought to you by eMenu Choice Point of Sale, Wizox AI, and Benny Keith Foods. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality Podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. My goal for this podcast: educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By bringing the resident and customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Welcome into another episode of Tips from Trestle. This week, I'm excited to talk about a subject that has a strong and deep impact on every resident's community experience, and that's the issue of social isolation. I've seen AccuShield's Love Meter project from afar as an operator, but also now as an industry partner, and I've seen the impact that it can have and the work they're doing on that. And so I was fortunate enough to catch up with Josh Harris, their national sales director, at the most recent Florida Senior Living Association annual conference. And we were able to dive deep into what AccuShield is doing, what the future of the project holds, and just how important it is for them and all of their customers to make sure that we address this issue of social isolation. Josh, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you about a project you guys have been working on now for a while called the Love Meter. So I'd love for you to kind of tell us a little bit about what the Love Meter is and what inspired AccuShield to develop it.
Absolutely. So the Love Meter stems from the core of our system. If you don't know, AccuShield is a visitor management system that tracks everybody that comes and goes in your health path. So it's been around for about 13 years now. And part of how we've grown as a company is continuous feedback from senior living from our communities. And one of the pieces of feedback we got was, since you're capturing everybody that comes to the building, can you let us know which residents aren't getting it? Because as we start to see, one of the issues that isn't addressed as much as it should in senior living is resident isolation and depression, which can have a large change on the health outcomes of the residents. So one thing that we can do is track which ones didn't get a lot of visits, which ones had a drop in visits, and then match that with their engagement systems to see which residents might be at risk, and then just using that clean data to help run their everyday operations.
Yeah, that social isolation piece. I mean, that's one of the big selling points for being in senior living is you're not at home alone. You're actually with peers. You have all these things you can engage with. And so it's so important to understand that. So I guess talk a little bit about how Love Meter works, right? What kind of data it collects, how you use that to identify the residents who might be at risk for isolation.
Absolutely. And one of the points you got up is that is why you come into senior living, is to make friends, right? And for a lot of these people, it's like going to summer camp. You know, you don't know anybody. It's your first year,
right?
Going into a new community. Some of these people aren't living with their spouses anymore. They've either passed or they've had to go into the community themselves. So they need to find a way to get into acclimate in the community. And so part of the way that the Love Meter works is it's going to show you which residents haven't gotten those visits, right? So their family members might live out of state, or there's just some family members that might not come there. Yeah. And so you're going to be able to have actual insights when you have your Monday morning stand-up meetings. This is going to give you the data to say, Mr. Smith, Mr. Harris, and Ms. Johnson haven't gotten any visits this month. If you have some extra time, let's stop by and see how they're doing. Maybe make sure they come through an activity. Yeah. Make sure they're coming to lunch, because visitor data on its own is not a telltale sign of isolation depression. But as we were just sitting there talking, listening to the CEO's panel, one of the things they were talking about is use the data that you have to drive actual insights and drive outcomes. So this is going to be another piece of data that goes along with other things that you're capturing, whether it's who's gone to activities, what activities they've gone to, who went to meals, right? That you're going to be able to help drive that outcome of better care for the residents. If you start to look into it, isolation and depression is a major cause of falls, right? A major cause of hospitalizations because they're not getting that extra care that they need.
It's important. I'm so glad you mentioned, like, it's not just its own set of data that you can use to really manage and understand it. Because you're right. Like, maybe if someone doesn't get a visitor for 2 weeks, but they're engaged in activities and they're going to meals, probably have some good interaction, but it's a great place to start and to get the right data for sure. So as you guys have kind of looked at developing this and making it a part of your platform, and you've been piloting and testing it in places, what kind of feedback are you getting from staff, families about the impact that it's having on the presence of the love meter?
Great question. So as we know, senior living is an extremely busy industry where every day is different.
Yeah.
It's not the same day, every day after every day.
Yeah.
Right. Everything's different. So they wanted not just the ability to see which residents might be at risk of isolation depression. They want to know what to do with that day. And part of it is matching it with volunteers. So we've said, okay, we should match them with volunteers that come in, right? People said to us, well, how do we find volunteers? How do we schedule those volunteers? Because that, as we know, they already have a full plate.
Yeah.
So how do we take something off their plate to help them? So what we've started to develop is an actual scheduling system that's going to schedule one-on-one visits with the residents. And it's not just having a church group come in. It's not having a flyer come there. These are one-on-one visits that we want to facilitate with the residents. We want to find people that have similar interests. Become those residents to actually make these meaningful visits. And when we talk about visits, we're not talking about home care, home health. These are families or volunteers that are coming in. So the next step they said was, what can we do?
Yeah.
How can you help us get to that next step of, yes, this data is great, but how can you help us execute on this data? So what we've started to develop, when we have in a couple of pilot locations right now, is the ability to schedule those visits. And also started to partner with groups, which that's not just our love meter. That's what we call project love meter, which is where we're actually matching the volunteers to the residents, helping them find those volunteers. And we have a couple of partners that we're actually working with those residents. So it's not just bring somebody in, it's bring somebody in that fits that resident's needs and that has similar interests.
That is so cool. And then matching those interests, I think, is so important, right? I don't want to say it's like online dating, right? But you've got to make sure their profiles.
Well, when we say love meter, the joke I used to use, maybe every once in a while, depending on who the person is it's not a senior living dating app. But it kind of is.
It's definitely matchmaking.
It's matchmaking for volunteers and friends for people in senior living.
I love that whole approach and the way it goes. When you think about the communities that you've got this working in and they're using the systems, how has the love meter kind of altered the way staff approach care, activities even, or maybe even like medical interventions?
Technology continues to drive changes in senior care, and that includes food service. eMenu Choice is an award-winning point-of-service application for managing the dining function in senior living communities. This mobile, touchscreen-enabled software enhances the dining experience for residents while streamlining processes for staff. The flexibility and functionality of eMenu Choice makes it an effective solution for any type of senior living environment, from independent and assisted living to skilled nursing facilities. It works for production kitchens or restaurant-style service with options for per meal or a la carte pricing, and accommodates a variety of payments, including bill to account, meal credits, and credit cards. Created by a senior care provider with more than a century of experience serving older adults, eMenu Choice eliminates communication barriers between staff and residents while enabling person-centered choices and greater resident satisfaction.
Absolutely. And so a couple of different ways that it's impacted it. One is people get in this industry for the most part because they want to do what they want to do good. Right. And they work very hard at their jobs, crazy hours, and they want to see success in what they do. They want to see that Mr. Harris is getting better. Yeah. Right. What I'm doing is allowing him to get better. So with the love meter, it's going to actually allow you to see those actual insights of who's getting better, who is not only starting to get more visits, but who is starting to get better in the community because of the extra care that you've put into it or the volunteers that you've matched to it. So you're going to actually see better outcomes. So it's crazy to go from resident isolation depression to recruitment and retention, but when you have team members know this is part of our process, this is something unique that we do, it can affect the lives of the residents in a way that you never thought you could affect them. It helps keep team members engaged, and it helps keep them around, because not only are we bringing these volunteers in, even if you don't use that part, the way that people are using it right now, to help their team members stay engaged with the residents that need engagement. They want to make their lives better from a isolation depression standpoint and a mental health standpoint. It's a lot of what's overlooked in senior living.
Yeah.
And it's a part that can be addressed and makes a large difference. And so also from the team members' perspective, it gives them a way to know what they need to do. So they don't have to go and say, oh, Miss Jones is out. I hadn't seen her at lunch, but she must know this is going to say Miss Jones hasn't got any visits and she hasn't come to lunch and I didn't see her in any activities today. Let's go check her.
Yeah.
So that's going to help drive those outcomes. And as we start to get more and more to a value-based care model in senior living, this is going to be one of the keys to that value-based care is behavioral health, right? And this is the way that we're stepping into that role of value-based care, which is from an isolation and depression standpoint.
I think it's so important that you brought up the connection to the staff and retaining them, because a lot of times the caregivers, yes, they're providing the healthcare part, but they really are in it for that connection. They have a heart for working with the seniors. And so being able to help them connect in that way, I think it provides so much more value and purpose to their job.
Absolutely. There's seen communities where the team members have, just as much as it's helped the residents, the team members now have found somebody to interact with, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's about helping the residents, making sure that they are getting those visits. And it's about working with the different technologies that you use. There's tons of resident engagement tools out there. There's tons of things you can use in your EHR. But as we start to get more and more into AI, it's about clean data.
So obviously with any technology, integrating it, rolling it out, there's always going to be challenges. So what were some of the bigger challenges that you guys found with rolling out the Love Meter in communities, and how did you overcome those obstacles?
Yeah, great question. So one of the challenges goes back to, what do we do with this data, Josh? This is great. And what do we do with this? We have so much data. How do we use this? One of the things that we came from is, how do I use this with the other systems I use? Really resident engagement systems. Mm-hmm. So to overcome that, we're sharing the work on integrations where we're pushing that data to their system, pulling that data. The other big piece was they were saying, having a choir come in for our least visited residents, having a Boy Scout group come in for our least visited residents that's not on a consistent basis isn't moving the needle like we wanted. So they wanted to see results in the same people coming in to visit the residents on a consistent basis, because that's what's going to drive success in the residents. A lot of these volunteers that come in, then we need our volunteers at senior living for every day. So if you're coming in for a choir, if you're a part of a Boy Scout group or a church, or if you just volunteer at senior living communities, please keep coming in. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But there is a certain level of getting to know that person.
Yeah.
And so when we're matching volunteers now, it's not just, hey, I'm a volunteer. Hey, I'm a resident. Let's match. It's, hey, I'm really into football. This volunteer is also into that. Or they're into history, right? I've gone into communities and visited with residents for the ones that are into history. They can tell you some awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't have somebody that's into that on the volunteer side, they can tell. I mean, it's, for the most part, the residents know if someone's just saying, if you're sitting there talking and there's no engagement back, that's not what you're needing. And you also need consistent engagement. A lot of these volunteers that come in, they come in once or twice. So this is somebody that's going to be, it's like when you had a pen pack, right? In school. This is somebody that you're consistently going to stay in touch with. So those are really the biggest things we saw was, thanks for the data, Josh. Now, what do we do with it and help us? And so that's part of, as AccuShield, as we grow, we only focus on senior living, and any other technology companies or companies out there, that are focused in senior living talk to the communities and listen to their feedback and don't think that your product is complete just because you build something.
Yeah.
And also, one interesting thing we've done is talk to the residents. What are the residents want?
Yeah.
They are customers, right? They're the people we want to take care of. So a lot of times they're the ones that their opinions are often overlooked, right? So talk to the residents about what they want in your technology, right? What they want. And I promise you, you think residents might not be interested. There are residents that are absolutely want to know about what's going on in the building, what technologies are being used.
Yeah.
Use those resident councils to understand what they want, and then always be changing. Because if you're not always changing, you're not always disrupting yourself, you end up like Blockbuster.
Yeah, great example. The resident piece, I think, is so overlooked when it comes to technology, because most of the technology that you deal with in senior living is not necessarily resident facing, right? It's like back office systems or the CRM or all of that. But I think it's important, like you said, to understand, well, the final impact of whatever technology you use is going to be on that resident. So when you think about technologies like the Love Meter, how do you think that's going to shape the future of the social engagement and mental health?
For over a century, Benny Keith has been a trusted leader in the food service industry. As a broadline distributor, we offer an extensive selection of products, delivering to 21 states through 10 distribution centers. We can help you create a thriving culinary culture by pairing quality products with customized solutions that elevate your residents' dining experience. Our team of registered dietitians provide unmatched customer service by modifying menus, selecting recipes, ensuring regulatory compliance, and more. Quality, value, and service are at the heart of everything we do. Benny Keith Foods puts the care back in healthcare.
So I think it's going to affect it really in three different ways. One is just the well-being of the resident and helping you address a problem that hasn't always been addressed. Helping that social isolation and depression, that resident isolation, fixing those problems, right? Figuring out data points to actually fix those problems. The second way is, as we start to move to value-based care, you have got to have clean data in there. You've got to prove that you're providing better care to the residents and they're getting better. So I think that that's where the Love Meter and the technologies that are coming out in senior living as a whole, and just where the industry is moving to, is come into senior living not to end your life and not to slowly decline, so to get better. Eventually, yes, there's going to be a decline, but we want to go up those stairs. You're in a setting where you can get better. Right. You have all those resources at your fingertips, and that's what people want now. They don't want to move into a senior living community to decline. To all go to a hospital, not have any visitors, get depressed. Right. That's not what senior living is about. And everyone would agree with that. It's become a part of it. And so using things like the Love Meter, like resident engagement tools, like fall prevention, and those are just the technology, providing the best care you can. That's where senior living is going to, which is almost like a health club. Like, that's what I've heard people say over and over again, is senior living is going to start competing with health clubs for people that are 55 and older, because they just want to get better. Yeah. Wellness is a huge piece right now. Yeah. And I could use some wellness as well. And I think we all right. And so that is what people want. And also mental health is something that is becoming more and more able to talk about. People are okay with talking about it. Yeah. And it is something that can be addressed, and it can change everything. For example, my grandmother, this doesn't have anything to do with isolation or depression, but there's simple things that can help with mental health. One of the things was she couldn't hear anything. We thought she had dementia. No, we just needed to turn up non-us hearing. Right. After we did that, everything changed. She was happier. She didn't have nearly as many of the problems that she was having. And everything changed. If you can just change one thing, which is their mental well-being, a lot of other things will take care of themselves. So I think it's just a new area that we're going to be able to address in a more data-driven way.
Well, and when people talk about mental health, I think they think it's lay on a couch, it's squishy, talking through stuff. But But what you're saying about like, let's use the data points to tackle those issues is so key. And for me, one of the things you said that really kind of hit home was you move into senior living to live more, not to start dying. I mean, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth by saying that.
That's exactly what I said. It's not a perfect way to say it, but you're moving into senior living to get better.
Exactly.
That is what it's about.
So as we kind of wrap up here, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about the future of the Love Meter. You hinted at Project Love Meter. So I'd love you to tell us kind of what that looks like going forward and, in the next phases.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next phase is going to be starting to partner with some of our current communities, which are very started lining with, but partnering more with them to actually start working with the groups that we're starting to work with to bring those volunteers in and see those one-on-one visits with people of similar interests start to pay off. And that's what I'm really excited for, because we've already seen success in just using this data to schedule volunteers. But now we want to see, we're bringing in special volunteers. I keep pinning at something. I talked to our CEO this morning. He said, wait. So it's one of those cliffhangers.
Right.
We'll let you know.
Stay tuned.
Don't tell anybody, but
that's great for a second podcast.
Right.
So
make that happen. Season 2. But also, so it's going to be matching those volunteers with what we're going to call expert volunteers. These are people that have been in the industry and know what it's like for a senior. And so that's going to be the next phase, is starting to bring in these people. And then also, I'd say one of the biggest things is integrating it into your current systems as we start to see more and more operators move to a value-based care model. We have a value-based care conference coming up in September. Not a conference, it's a workshop. We sit around and we talk about, how does this value-based care model work? What do we need to do? Because there's not a solid answer to it yet. It's a great dream, and we definitely can get there, but we need to figure out as an industry how we're going to do that. And that's not just with the communities. They can't do it by themselves. It's technology partners, not just coming up with their own technologies. There's not one technology that's going to solve this.
Right.
It's us working together. So we talk all the time. You need to have a vendor conference where it's like a players only. Like, let's work together. Our systems can't just talk to each other. No one wants an all-in-one system anymore. They've realized that's not a thing.
Yeah.
They need best-in-class senior living solutions to talk to each other. So with our Love Meter, that's exactly what we're going to do, is have it start talking to other systems, as well as give them the volunteers that they need to actually make it happen. So that's phase 2 from the Love Meter. Results and the pilots result from the community starting to use it. We're excited to see it.
Very cool. Very cool. If our listeners want to learn more about the Love Meter, AccuShield, can they contact you or get in touch with AccuShield?
Absolutely. So AccuShield.com/Love Meter, or they can reach out to me directly, josh.harris@AccuShield.com, or contact me on our website. You can reach out to me directly. Cell phone number 334-201-1685. There's plenty of people that are happy to help. Anybody at AccuShield will want to answer the phone and help you if you're interested in the Love Meter. It's something that, as a company, we have been still, all that. Everybody wants to be involved.
Yeah.
So I follow anybody, but there's my contact information.
Perfect. Well, Josh, I appreciate you taking time to tell us about the Love Meter and coming away from the Florida Senior Living Conference for a few minutes to have this conversation.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So there it is, everybody. Another one in the books. Thanks again for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at Tips from Trestle. TrestleHospitalityConcepts.com. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.